Hey, it's Tim.
And it's Amy from GoWithLess. We are so glad you're here with us today in Arctic, Texas. We are in Texas in February. The weather is wackadoo, and we're going to get into talking about the weather and how it affects our future plans in today's video. We hope you'll watch the whole thing.
Every Wednesday here on our channel, we come out with a new video, typically talking about our early retirement or our nomadic lifestyle. In 2015, we left our careers in our late 40s, and in January of 2020, we sold our home and became full-time nomads.
That's right. Please make sure to subscribe over here, give the video a like, and let's talk weather. We have been very prolific on our channel over the years saying that we're looking for our ideal 75 degrees. Now, it is not reasonable that we're always going to have 75 degrees given that we want to go all over the world. We don't just want to be in San Diego every day of our lives, as lovely as that would be for a short time. We want to move around. So what that means is that we've kind of established a boundary of temperatures that are acceptable. And that would be no colder than 50 degrees during the day and no hotter than 95 degrees during the day. It's okay if it gets colder at night. It's actually, we like to sleep with it a little bit colder at night, but we don't want it to be daytime highs lower than 50, higher than 95. And we know we're not going to get it to be perfect, but we got a big fail.
Yeah, so here in Texas right now, it is in the teens. It's maybe even in the single digits. It has been crazy cold. We're currently without water. The water is off in the place where we're staying, and we've been warned that the electricity may go off for up to 4 hours or potentially even longer. And so be careful with
planned,
it.
That's
exactly
3 hours.
Right.
Maybe it's
They're suggesting,
unplanned
the
forever.
community's suggesting that this might be happening. And so this has been a weather fail, and so it's not something that we had any expectation that this was going to happen. And where we are right now, this is our second stay in Texas. So our first stay was up in Georgetown. We were there for about a month. It actually snowed in Georgetown 2 or 3 inches. That set a record. It's like 10 years since there had been this much snow in this part of Texas. That set a record. And then we show up, we're roughly in San Antonio. When we show up down here, this again is a record-setting event, what's going on right now with the cold. We're told that this may be like a century type record-setting event for different parts of Texas, including this region, for what's going on in terms of the amount of snow, how cold it is. So this is awful.
And it is like 9 or 10 days of weather below freezing here, and the daytime temperatures are when the negative. It shows like what the weather feels like. It's in the negatives several times throughout the day, yesterday and today. So it's like up to negative 10 degrees is what it feels like. Now I'm going to give Texas a big pass because I see like on Facebook, like people who are from the north. We're from Colorado. I've lived in winter every year of my entire life until this year, which I thought I would avoid. I didn't. But people like kind of tease like, oh, they don't know how to deal with that weather. Well, the challenge is they don't have tools to deal with the weather. So when you are in a cold weather place, you have snow shovels and ice picks and boots for snow, cold weather coats and layers and snow plows and salt and sand for the roads. So they know how to deal with this, and they get the plows out and put out the solution. They don't have anything like this here because it's so rare that it would make no sense to invest in these things as a community. So what that means is you just need to really deal with it, have it melt, and if you need to go out, then
you don't.
It's very treacherous,
Yeah.
or it's very treacherous if you do. So it's just a tough situation, I think.
Yeah, no, it's an incredibly tough situation. So, and when we came here, we had no expectation. This wasn't anything that was on the radar. This was supposed to be, it's very sort of temperate here during the winter in Texas. They don't have events like this. I promised it was going to be okay when we were here in Texas. We didn't have expectations that it was going to be 75, but we thought the weather was going to be reasonable. That would have been a very reasonable thing to expect, that the weather's going to be okay when we're here. Not fantastic, but nothing like what we're experiencing now. So what we've learned through this is that we are going to try and make some adjustments to our life to make sure that this sort of once every century event, so we are attempting to control the weather, something like this event doesn't happen in our life again.
And Tim keeps saying we're not going to be in the northern hemisphere anymore during the deep winter. And I am on board with this. So we may be in the northern hemisphere, but really close to the equator. So maybe Mexico and south, but certainly not the United States. Because even though there may be a couple little pockets of nice warmer weather in places like Florida right now, I've been in Florida in March and I've needed a coat, hat, and gloves at Disney World, and I was completely freezing. So that does not always hit my weather perfection either. So I think we're just going to avoid North America unless something like an emergency kind of a thing brings us back home. We're not going to be here by choice in the United States. So we're looking at Southern Hemisphere and around the equator to be a lot warmer.
Yeah, and something else, obviously, we Southeast Asia is a place that's high on our radar. And so we know that it's really, really hot there and potentially miserable on the other end of the spectrum. So it may be so hot that we're like, we're melting. I think I would still take that heat over this cold. So I grew up in Texas, and Texas summers are sometimes miserable. It's really hot. But I'd still take the heat over the cold, at least cold like this. I think cold can be dangerous, whereas I guess you can have a heat stroke, or heat could also be dangerous, but the cold is another level of it's just yuck.
And you slip on, you've slipped and fallen.
Exactly. Back in Colorado in 2019, I fell down like 3 times just walking down the street on the ice, just slipped down. And so I personally am done with snow and ice and really cold.
And Tim and I are not your stoic fire people. There are plenty of fire bloggers out there who really embrace stoicism. One of our friends likes to take cold showers just to toughen up. We are not those people, not even close. We've worked hard and we've earned a life of having a good life. And to us, that means being comfortable and enjoying the weather to walk in. So we are not riding our bikes in 10 degrees with no coat just to buck up. So here's what I also wanted to mention is part of the reason we're here is because we ended our last house sit in Scottsdale, Arizona. That was right around New Year's. Then we found 2 house sits that brought us to Texas, and it coincided at the same time with our brand new ACA insurance plan kicking off on January 1st. So we said, okay, we found these good house sits. Let's just get all of our medical stuff done. Let's reestablish brand new doctors in the Austin area, because now Texas is our home and that's where we'll come for our doctors. So we have been taking advantage of that. Because of COVID, we were in our car, so it just made sense to drive an easy 2-day drive to Texas. And I'll tell you, I did look at options when we saw this bad weather coming on Thursday. I was really hunting online, and I said, let's look at South Padre Island. Maybe we'll do a hotel or an Airbnb for several days to ride it out there, because they're more south in Texas, like the most southern tip in Texas. And they were in the 50s with rain. So the idea is that we'd still be homebound and we couldn't go anywhere if it's raining, and we wouldn't want to go in the 50s. I guess we could, but we wouldn't want to. So we do a lot of our stuff outside because of COVID. So that really got nixed. And then I was really close. So I saw on just a couple of days ago on Thursday that every Saturday there is a nonstop Southwest flight from Austin to Cancun and back once a week. And we were like this close to booking that. But a couple things. First of all, it's COVID. We haven't been on a flight since March. Second, I have a colonoscopy as soon as we come home. So I didn't want to have that Mexico challenge with I have a sensitive stomach, just generally, just a diagnostic colonoscopy because I'm over 50. But I didn't want to have any issues with I'm in Mexico, stomach issues, and now I got to have a colonoscopy, which I am dreading beyond belief. I have waited over 2 years beyond when I should go because I haven't wanted to go. So, and then also, Mexico, if we were in Mexico, we would have needed a negative COVID test to enter back into the United States. And I know that several hotels offer this sort of thing, not where we were looking. So there are some very expensive hotel properties. I know Hyatt is offering that in Latin America, but they are quite expensive, all-inclusive properties. That wasn't what we were looking for, and it was $350 a night. So we decided just to buck it up and hunker down. We've been doing it a lot this year. But again, no water. That's next level.
Yeah, so it also seemed like many of the flights we were planning to leave out of Austin, many of the flights out of Austin were canceled on Saturday. So this one flight that was scheduled to go to Cancun, there's a really good chance that flight would have been canceled. So even if we had signed up and figured out we're going to get on this plane, there's a good chance we would have been stuck here anyway. So I guess to net this all out, part of the beauty of our lifestyle is that we have this opportunity to chase good weather. And if it weren't for COVID, we would be in some place right now, not here in Texas, where the weather is different. Southeast Asia probably is where we would be right now.
At the very least, Cancun.
At the very least, Cancun. And so once our life kicks back off and we can be on the road again, we will be chasing 75 degrees again. We've learned something from this experience here in Texas. We assumed
we really
it was
hate winter.
Okay. Well, we sort of knew that, but the idea that it might happen every 20 or 30 years that the weather's this yucky, we don't even want that. And so basically by being in the southern hemisphere near the equator, maybe we can solve that problem. So again, something we've just learned through our experience over the past 12, 13 months, and something we'll continue to tweak as we move along. But we're still seeking 75 and hoping we can find it in the southern hemisphere this time of year.
Okay, now I have two questions for our audience. Question number one, what is the weather like where you are? Let us know if it's Fahrenheit or Celsius as well. So that's number one. What's it like where you are? Number two, where do you want to go when your weather is awful? Is your weather awful equaling it is melty and hot, or maybe it is Arctic and freezing? What is your bad weather where you live, and where do you go when you escape? For us, we're heading Southeast Asia next winter, so you will see us there. As long as we get our vaccines and borders are open, you'll see us there next January, faux show.
Thanks so much for watching.
See you Wednesday.